Okay, we're now going to start Eruvin, Masechta Eruvin, Daf Nun Gimel Amud Beis. A few lines from the top. Amar Reb Abba. So yesterday we spoke about that the people of Yehuda were very medaik in their lashon, very precise in the way they spoke. So we're going to bring a few stories that prove that. Amar Reb Abba said, "Iko the mashal lehol bnei Yehuda the daik lishnei ma'abrim tnan oy ma'abrim tnan akuzi tnan oy akuzoi tnan." So we have, and we spoke on the Mishnah yesterday, whether we read the Mishnah with the aleph ma'abrim with the aleph or ma'abrim with the ayin. And so we have another Mishnah in Masechta Bcheres that we have the same question: do we read the akuzei with the aleph or do we read the akuzei with the ayin? So since we said that the Bnei Yehuda were very medaik in the lashon, so the Bible said, did anyone ever go and ask the Bnei Yehuda how we read it? So the Gemara answers, the Gemara answered that they actually asked them, and they answered us, Ikadatani ma'abrim, Vikadatani ma'abrim, Ikadatani akuze, Vikadatani akuze. So the Bnei Yehuda answered them that we have two different girsas. One girsa is with the aleph, one girsa with the ayin. So in other words, they are both correct. It's like the machlekes of Rashi and Ben Otam, whose tefillin did they wear before they had Rashi and Ben Otam? So the answer is that they wore both. Different people wore Rashi and different people wore Ben Otam. So that's over here that they have both gisais and both are correct. So now we're going to bring a whole bunch of stories about the Bnei Yehuda. Says the Gemara further, Bnei Yehuda daiki lishna maihi. How do we know that the Bnei Yehuda, when we're daiki in the lashon, were precisely the way they spoke? So we're going to bring a story that proves that. That who by Yehuda, though someone from the town, from the place of Yehuda, he told the people who was standing around him, Talish yeshli limker. I have a talis. I have a talis to sell. Amnulei. So they told him, my gavin talischa. What color is your talis? Amnulei. He told them, kitradin ale adam, like spinach on the ground, meaning that it's as green as spinach is on the ground. When spinach is, meaning the spinach isn't 100% ripe yet, it's much greener. So from here we see that he didn't only tell them that the talis was green, he told them which type of green this was. So we see that they were very precise people. So how do we know the Bnei, you said yesterday the Bnei Gadol were not precise in the language. How do you know that? Bnei Gadol, how do we know that the Bnei Gadol were not medaik in the way they spoke? The Tanya could have an Abraisa says that who bad Galila have a cause, there was someone from Gadol who was walking the street. And he told the people, he was walking around and told the people who he met, Amar Laman, Amar Laman. Who sells Amar? So Amar, we don't know what it means, we're going to see soon. But he walked around, who sells Amar? So the Amrullah, they told him, Galila Shaita, stupid person from Galila. What are you talking about? Chamar lemirkav, are you looking for a donkey to ride on? Or chamar lemishte, are you looking for wine to drink? Amar lemulbash, or maybe you're looking for wool to wear. Leimar leiskesa, or maybe you're looking for a sheep to shech. Why? Because all these things, Amar, right? Amar could either be with the ayin, and then it would mean wool, or Amar could be with the aleph, and then it would mean a sheep. But also, if you make a mistake, instead of reading Amar, maybe your intention is to say Chamar. And Chamar can mean either a donkey, or Chamar can either mean a Chamar can also mean wine. So we see over here that they weren't precise. They didn't pronounce the words properly, and therefore they made a lot of confusion. We're going to bring another story that brings out how if you mispronounce something, you could get something very wrong. There was once a lady who wanted to tell her friend, come and I'll give you, come to my house and I'll give you food. I'll give you milk. I'll give you milk. But instead of telling her, she told her, Shlechti Teichlich Lavya. So she mixed up the letters and she told him, Shlechti Teichlich Lavya. Shlechti means you should be cursed, and Teichlich Lavya, a lion should eat you. So from here we see that if you mix up the words, then you get the message that comes out it could have a very bad effect. Maybe it's like the story when the famous story about all the parts of the body had the argument which one's most important, and the tongue said that she is most important, right? And the famous story that the tongue said she's most important. She came in front of the king and she said that instead of bringing the milk that would heal the king, so she said she brought the milk that would harm the king, and then the body realized that the tongue is most important. There's another story that brings out how pronunciation is very important. There was a lady who came in front of the Dayanim, and she told the Dayanim like this. She told them, Mari Kiri, my dear masters. So in Hebrew, in Aramaic, Mari means a master, and Kiri means my dear masters. But she pronounced it, instead of Kiri with a kuf, she pronounced the Kiri with a chaf. And Kiri with a chaf, instead of meaning a master, it means a slave. So she said, Mari, my master, Kiri, my slave. Tafla havali, I had a beam, ugnavuch min, and someone stole it from me. Uchudu avas, the chad shadullah iloi, lemati kari adam. She wanted to describe how big the beam was. So she said that if they would hang you on top of the beam, your feet wouldn't reach the ground, meaning the beam was taller than you. So she was trying to say that if they were measured the beam by my height, I wouldn't reach the ground. But instead of saying that, so she said the chadshad loch, instead of saying measure me, she said loch to the daim, which was derogatory. She was saying that if basically they'll hang the daim on top of the beam, so the beam he wouldn't reach the floor. Which from here we see that if you don't pronounce things properly, then it has it could insult people and you bring out the wrong message. Another story how we see this. Amhasa the Bay Rabbi, the slave, the shifcha in Rabbi's house. When she would speak in Balashon Chachma. She would speak in code language. Yeah, it says Dai lechakim b'remiza. A chacham doesn't. You don't have to speak to him in a full sentence. You can tell him a code. So she would say, when she would speak to Rabbi, she would tell Rabbi this code. She would say like this: Alos nafkas b'chad. Alos nafkas b'chad. So in those days, the way it works is even nowadays, right? You have if you want to take wine outside a bowl, outside a big pot, so you would have a ladle, or you would have a something to scoop out the wine from the bowl. So she told him like this, that I lost nafkas b'chad. I lost the place a second. Yeah, I lost nafkas b'chad. The ladle or the cup is banging against the pot, meaning that the wine is finishing. And since the wine is finishing, so it's time to bring new wine. Yidun nishraya likineo. So maybe so the code she said was, are the birds flying back to the nest? But the solution of the code was, meaning, are the Talmidim who are hanging around Rabbi's house, are they going to go back home now? So therefore I have to bring more wine? Therefore I don't have to bring more wine? Or they're going to hang around more, and therefore I have to bring more wine? V'chad have a boy the leisvon, when she wanted, or maybe they want to stay and eat in the house, she would tell them, Yadi basar chaver tumino. Let's take the cover off the wine barrel, and then if we take off the bottle, then the ladle, which usually fill up the wine, would start floating like a ship. Basically, what we're saying is that if they're going to hang around more, if they're going to go back to the nest, meaning the Talmidim are going to go back home, so then I don't need to bring more wine. But if I do need to bring more wine, tell me now, so I could open a new barrel, and then the ladle that I fill up the wine from the barrel would float. Why would it float? Because there's wine inside the barrel, so therefore it would float like a ship. So that's how we see how she used to speak in code language. Now I'm going to bring another story how other people spoke in code language. Rabbi Yossi bar Asyon, when he would speak in Lashon in code language in the Muslim, he would say like this: Amar asuli shor b'mishpat betur misken. Make for me a shor. Make for me. You bring from a pasuk. Asuli shor b'mishpat betur misken. Make for me a ox b'mishpat. What does that mean? V'chad havi ashal bush b'zicha amar gvar pum dein chad madzu teva yesh. So basically, he would say like this, and it would. Rashi brings down that he would say it in a code. So the code was like this: Shor, the targum for shor is tur, and the targum for mishpat, right, is din. So if you stick them together, tur and din, it makes trodin. Trodin is a spinach. So he would say, instead of saying make me spinach, he would speak in code, and he would say make for me mishpat b'tor asoli shayed b'mishpat, make for me shared mishpat, which the if you stick those both the translation of both those words together, it makes spinach. And also he would say b'tor miskein. B'tor miskein would mean a mountain of mustard. So he would say bring me mustard. And also when he would ask for other people and he would say hello to other people, he would say like this: Amar Hachi, Gvad Pum Dein Chai. Gvad Pum Dein Chai, Mazu Teva Yesh. Gvad Pum Dein Chai, Rashi says that the translation of Gvad is Ush, and the translation of Pum is P. The translation of Din Chai, meaning Ush Pazicha, mean is my Ush Pazicha in Aramaic means my guess. Is my guess doing okay? So Mazu Tev Yesh, in other words, how are you doing? So basically, we bring you out how he would say something in Lashon HaKodesh and or in Aramaic, and the meaning would be the translation of that in if you speak the translation of those in Aramaic or in the other language, then you would get his message. Another story how we see how different Amoraim spoke in code language. When you speak in code language, we say like this: Asrigo lepachamim. Asrigo lepachamim means make the pachamim, make the coals like esregim. So Rashi says that make them as red as esregim. I guess when esregim go bad, they become red. So make them, heat them up very hot, so it should become red like esregim. Arkiu lizahavim, spread out the goal, meaning after they become red, so spread them out. And make for me 2 magidim. What are magidim? So magidim means tellers. So Rashi says the tellers over here means 2 chickens, because chickens tell us when the morning is. So make for me 2 tellers. In other words, make for me 2 chickens. And that's what he would tell them. Ikadami, another way, some people say they would tell them like this: Vayasuli bahem shnei magidi ba'alota. Make for me 2 chickens, 2 magidim on the coals. So we see over here he used to call chickens magidim instead of calling them chickens. He just called them magidim. Magidim are tellers, which was a code language for chicken. Another story the Gemara brings down of how we see they used to speak in code. Amri amnu le rabbanon rabbo. Rabbanon told the rabbo like this: Hatzpineno hechan Rabbi Elai tzofim. Show us where Rabbi Elai is hiding. Yeah, they didn't know where Rabbi Elai was. They asked him, where is he hiding? Amalahem. So he told them, Olatz Benaida Aharonis. Olatz Benaida Aharonis means he's rejoicing. We had a good night, Benaida Aharonis, with a girl who was Aharonis, meaning she was a Kayan. Achairanis, and it's his last one, meaning that his wife died, and now it's his second wife. Ve'iranis, and she's very she's very awake, meaning has a lot of nice, and she has a good character. Ve'nirato, and she caused him to be up the whole night. So meaning now he's sleeping. So they asked him where he's hiding. So they said he's sleeping. Why? Because in code language he found a Naida Airanis. Achairanis, meaning his wife died, and she kept him up the whole night. Amni la. Some people say that they were speaking about Isha, his wife, like the Potash chat, that was his wife. And another very interesting chat, but Amni la. Another explanation is that they weren't being meramas that he found a new wife. The meramas was he found a new Masechta, and this new Masechta kept him up the whole night, and it kept him up and it made him very rejoiced, very happy. And it says that the Torah is nimshla liisha. Torah is like a woman. So that's what they would call a Masechta. He was rejoicing by the Masechta. Another example, Amri later Rabbi Elai. They told Rabbi Elai, show us where the Rabbi is hiding, and show us where he is. So he told them, he got permission from the Nasi, but Machtir means the crowner. But now the hint was that he took permission from the Nasi, and he went to Mephibosheth. So Mephibosheth was David's teacher, meaning so the siman, the code for the Talmid Chacham of that generation was Mephibosheth. He said he took permission from the Nasi and he went to Mephibosheth, meaning he went to learn by other big Talmid Chacham. That's where he went. So here we see that when Abanan spoke in co-language, I guess they didn't want other people to understand or whatever it was, or because maybe they spoke in co-language because that was the way they spoke in between themselves. So they used different codes. Amar says the Gemara further. Amar Rabbi Shor Mechananya. Rabbi Shor Mechananya says like this: Adam. I never had an argument with someone, and they won, and I lost the argument. Besides these cases, chutz meisha. Besides when I argued with the lady, chutz and mitinaik and a small kid, v'tinaikes and a small girl. So now the Gemara can bring the stories of each one. Isha, when did you have an argument with the lady? Like this. Isha mai hamachas, and so that it's aksanya achas. Once I was staying in someone's house, by a lady's house, and she made beans for me. So on the first day I was there, I ate everything, the whole plate, and I didn't leave anything for her. Shniya, the second day, I did the same thing. I ate, I never left anything for her. On the third day, she put too much salt on them, meaning they were covered, they were cooked in salt. So they're very salty. As soon as I tasted, I let go of them because I didn't eat anymore because they're very salty. So she told me, Rabbi, why aren't you eating? So I told the lady, I already ate in the morning. She gave an excuse, didn't want to insult her that she's too salty. So he told her I already ate in the morning. So she told him like this. If you already ate in the morning, why did he eat the bread? It looks like she gave him bread and beans, and he ate the bread and he didn't eat the beans. So he told him, so if that's your real reasoning because you ate in the morning, so why did he eat the bread? So it must be there's different reasoning why you're not eating the beans. And she carried on telling him like this, Rabbi, maybe when you ate the first times, you never left me any food. Didn't the Chacham teach us that when you take food from a pan, you don't have to leave it over? Or if you take food from your plate, meaning if someone gives you, if your slave or if your guest gives you food, so you shouldn't finish the plate because maybe she gave you, maybe the guest, maybe the host gave you all the food and they didn't eat anything, so you should leave them over food. So she was telling him that maybe on the reason why you're not eating now is because since on the first and second that you finish your plate, now you're doing tshuva and you leave them the whole plate to eat. That's where Rabbi says Rabbi Yeshua Mechananya said that's the first time I got told off or I had an argument with a lady and I lost the argument because she was talking right that I didn't leave her food the first two times I was there. Then the Gemara goes further and brings down the story when he had a discussion with a girl and the girl overcame Rabbi Shai. The girl proved Rabbi Shai wrong. I was once going in the street, and the path was going through a field. And I was going through the path. One of the children, one of the girls told me, Rabbi, isn't this a field? Meaning, isn't this a Rishus HaYachid? And you should not be walking in there without permission. I told her, it's a way that everyone goes this way. So she answered him like this. She told him, why does everyone go like this? Because Ganavim like you made it into a public path, but it's not supposed to be a public path. If everyone who walks past the field says, well, hey, everyone else is walking past this field. So if everyone makes the same cheshbon, so they're all stealers. And the reason why it's a public domain is because all the people walking are stealers. And Rabbi Shai realized his mistake. And that was the second time he got proven wrong by a tinaik. Then the Gemara goes further. Tinaik Mahi. When was he proven wrong by a child? This is a famous story which is brought down in the beginning of Tanya. I was once walking the street. I saw a child sitting by a fork in the road. Yeah, it was either going right or going left, and I didn't know which way to go. I asked him, which way do I take to get to the city? So the child answered to Bishaya back, the right way, or one of the ways, is short and it's long, and the other way is long and it's short. So the Bishai says, I took the short and long way. What does that mean? When I came to the city, so when I came to the city, I saw the whole city was surrounded by gardens and vineyards. So I wasn't able to walk through the gardens and vineyards. So that's why Chapon, it means that Ksara Barucha, that it's short and long, meaning to get there is short, but to get to the city with Pearl is very long. So what do I have to do? I went back to the fork in the road. I found the child and then I told him, you told me that the way is short. On my lead, so the child answered, didn't I tell you that it's also long? Meaning, even though I told you ksara, I told you it's ksara v'arucha. I mean, there could be a way that's short, but eventually it's going to be long. So the Bishai said, "No shakti aresh." I took him, I kissed him on his forehead. But and I told him, "Ashreichem Yisrael, praised is the Jewish nation. Shakulchem chachamim deilamatem migdolchem ba'ad ktanchem." The whole nation is a very clever and wise nation. Aside from the gdolim, aside the grown-ups, and aside even the small children are very clever, are very sharp, and they were able to, and that's what he told me. Another story similar to this. Rabbi was walking in the street. He found Bruria was the wife of Rabbi. Oh my Allah, he told her, which way is it to go to Lud? So she answered him, Glili Shaita, stupid person from Glili, from Gadol. Din Chachamim tal. Din Chachamim say, Atad Besichim Isha. Don't be mad Besicha, don't speak too much a lot to a woman. You told me since you should be more careful in your terminology, because since Chachamim said Atad Besicha Misha, meaning you have to use the shortest sentence that you're able to use. So instead of telling me Be'ezer Derech Neilech Lalud, you should have told me Be'ezer Lud, which way is to Lud. So here we see another way that the ladies were smarter or out proved the men. Now we're speaking about Bruria. We're gonna Bruria, the wife of the maid. We're bringing one more story about Bruria. The last line on the Gimel with base. Bruria Ashkechei Lahu Talmidah. Bruria found one of the Talmidim, the Havakagadis Melichsha, which he was whispering something, meaning he was learning something, but he was whispering. He wasn't bringing it out in his voice. But Shabei, she told him up, and she told him Amrele. She told him like this: Leikach Kasur, doesn't it say in pasuk Arucha Bakel Ushmura that Torah is musudar? If it's musudar Bakel and everything, then it'll be guarded. What does that mean? She'im Arucha, but Amach Ibarim Shacha. If Torah takes through your Damach Ibarim, your 248 limbs, then Shmura, then Mishtameres will be guarded. The Imlav in the Mishtameres. But if it doesn't express itself in all your limbs, then in Mishtameres it won't be guarded. Meaning that if you don't bring out the Torah in your if you don't learn by pronouncing it with your mouth, so then you will not remember what you learned. We're finishing over here on the top of Dalet Amud Aleph.